UFC Fight Night Bonfirm versus Brown takes place this weekend, and I'm going to be predicting every single fight on the card, and you may be wondering why I'm wearing a suit. And my question is to you, why aren't you wearing a suit for this monumental card in UFC history? Some casuals will come along and say, this card is awful, I'm not even going to bother watching the card. We have some amazing fights on this card, and I think it's worthy that we get the suit out. Similar to like how Joe Rogan brings out the black t-shirt, the Trump interview, or every single UFC event he attends. Might as well whip the suit out, you know what I'm saying? So we're going to start off with the first banger on the prelims between Jackson McVey and Robert Valentin. Now, these guys have got a combined UFC record of 0-4. Yet to get a win, but one of those O's have got to go. Jackson McVey, he's had one fight in the UFC. He was meant to fight a bunch of different guys in his debut. It never really worked out between them. You know, he was meant to fight this guy. He got injured. He pulled out. Another guy came in, couldn't make weight. Ended up fighting Bruno Ferreira. Tough fight for your debut. He lost round 1 submission. Robert Valentin, if you know who Robert Valentin is, you either know him because he's one of the cans they fed to Artur Gutierrez, or because he's the guy that Taurus Finney decided to take a nap on for 15 minutes in the cage. Either way, I'm going to pick Jackson McVey to get this one done. I feel like he's sharper on the feet. I feel like Robert Valentin, he's a little bit more ploddy. Valentin is pretty crafty though. You know, with the way he moves, you know, I feel like he's a tough guy. Gutierrez didn't put him flatline out, but I think Jackson McVey will get this one done, okay? But we'll move on to the next banger fight on the card. Oh, Miles Johns versus Daniel Marcos. Marcos is boring as fuck, man. I thought, you know, the Adrian Yanez fight was close. John Castaneda fight was close. Davy Grant fight, that's arguably a robbery as well. You know what I mean? Daniel Marcos, and plus he's boring as fuck, so I would like to see him get flatline KO'd. He just had a really boring performance against Montel Jackson. But Miles Johns, I don't think Miles Johns is going to fucking KO him. You know what I mean? It's a step down in competition for Daniel Marcos from the guys that he was fighting. So I'm going to pick Daniel Marcos to get this one done. I'm going to pick him to get it done by very boring 29-28 decision. Moving on. Tecia Pennington versus Denise Gomes. Now, there is a way to accurately predict WMMA fights about 80% of the time. And this is pick the one that closely resembles a man the most. Now, you're probably looking at this and going, well, Tecia Pennington, she is pretty jacked. And she is also married to Raquel Pennington, lesbian, right? But Denise Gomes, she's got that buzz cut. You know, she's looking pretty mean. But I did some more research, because I actually do my research for these fights, and I did some research on Tecia Pennington. And turns out she is married to Raquel, but she took Raquel's last name. She also is much smaller than Raquel Pennington, so we all know who's winning that fight. I didn't think Tecia Pennington can use a lighter woman's skill in the bedroom. So, for that reason, I'm going to pick Denise Gomes to get this one done. I'm picking her to get it done via a 29-28 competitive decision. You know what I mean? Moving on. Josh Hokit versus Max Gimenis. Listen, let me tell you about Max Gimenis. Okay? He's not even loaded in the system. Bro, fucking Josh, what is this? This is 229. You are not a heavyweight, my friend. This guy, okay, so let me just look up who Max Gimenis is. The website is just fucking $1 billion company, by the way. So Josh Hokit is a fat middleweight. Let's say how it is. 6'1", 74-inch reach, 230 pounds. You're not even big for the division. He's not even a fat guy. Max Gimenis, we don't actually know how tall he is, what his reach is. We just know that he weighed in at 260 pounds. So I'm going to pick Hokit to win this fight. He is a -400 favorite. So we're going to pick him to get it done by round 1 KO over fucking Max Gimenis, who isn't even loaded into the system. $1 billion company, by the way. Just want to make that clear. Moving on. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Now, if we try to apply the same logic we used, you know, for the other WMMA fight of picking the one that most, you know, closely resembles a man, it doesn't really work in this scenario because both of these ladies don't look like they get hit in the face for a living. So we kind of got to look deeper into their characters. Now, just ignore the fact that Mayra Silva is 10-5-1 in her career. She's got a record of 10-5-1. We actually now have to look into the UFC and MMA fighting ability, which is crazy when you say it out loud. But Cavalcanti is on a big win streak. She's 9-1. She's the minus 250 favorite going into this. And Mayra Silva is on a 3-fight losing streak and hasn't won since 2022. So I'm going to pick Jacqueline Cavalcanti to get this one done. 29-28 WMMA decision. Moving on. Adrian Yanez versus Cristian Quotes. Boy, is this a stacked card. I'm going to pick Adrian Yanez to get this one done. He's a pretty solid journeyman fighter inside the bantamweight division. He's not going to beat the guys who are ranked capability, but he's definitely going to beat the Cristian Quotezes of the world. You know what I'm saying? Cristian Quotez has not fought in a year and 8 months. Boys, what the fuck? Why do they do this? And why do fighters do this? Why do they take 2 years out of the sport? He may have been injured. Why do they take 2 years out of the sport to then return on some shitty Apex card? Stupid. I'm going to pick Yanez to get this one done. I'm going to pick it to get it done by round 3 TKO. And I'm going to pick get it done by round 2 TKO. Moving on. Hyder Amil versus Jamall Emmers. Hyder Amil versus Jamall Emmers. Hyder Amil is actually pretty entertaining to watch. He's very explosive off the go, so that's quite entertaining to watch. He is coming off a knockout loss to Jose Delgado, though. He's coming off a knockout loss to Jose Delgado. Delgado coming with a knee up the middle. I'm going to be real. I think Hyder Amil gets this one done over Jamall Emmers. Hyder Amil is probably just going to, he's going to come out, bat out of hell, push Jamall Emmers up against the cage. And then start ripping to the body, ripping to the head, and just beating up Jamall Emmers against the cage. Now, granted, that could not happen, and Hyder Amil can lose all of his confidence, and this fight can go to a very competitive, boring 29-28 decision. I hope it doesn't. But I'm going to pick Hyder Amil to get this one done by round 1 KO. I think Hyder Amil, especially is in the Apex. The Apex is about 5 feet smaller in terms of octagon volume. So I'm going to pick Hyder Amil to back Jamall Emmers up against the cage. Coming out very fast pace and knock him the fuck out. Moving on to the main card. We've actually got a good fight. Oh my god. Christopher Leroy Duncan versus Marco Tulio. Let me tell you about this fight, because this one is amazing. I don't know why it's in the Apex, but I'm very, very interested for this fight. Christopher Leroy Duncan is one of the only fighters in the UFC who is capable of getting into a flow state like that. It looks like he's in a flow state every single time this guy fights. His movement, he's very bouncy on the feet. He's similar to MVP, but with, more forward motion, more finishing capability. And Marco Tulio is a very, very talented prospect who absolutely demolished Tresean Gore in his last fight. Tresean Gore, he had fucking 120 significant strikes by round 2. And it's a very close fight on top of that. I think the odds have it as evens. I think Tulio is the slight favourite between the two of them. But I'm going to pick Christopher Leroy Duncan. I watched that Tresean Gore fight with Marco Tulio, and I rewatched it. And Tresean Gore was low-key tagging him up a little bit. Now, obviously, Tresean Gore was getting battered at a 4-to-1 ratio in terms of strikes. But I think Christopher Leroy Duncan has got more, finishing capability and harder hits, he's a harder hitter than Tresean Gore. And I think he's more dangerous than Tresean Gore. And if he can use his reach advantage against a guy like Tulio, who I feel like does struggle with reach a little bit, I feel like he can get this one done. So I'm going to pick Christopher Leroy Duncan. I'm going to pick round 1 KO for Christopher Leroy Duncan. I feel like Marco Tulio isn't going to be switched on properly, round number 1, and Duncan's just going to get into his flow state, moving his head quite a bit, chuck some leg kicks out, start jabbing. I think he's going to catch him with a beautifully flowing 1-2-3 up against the cage. Tulio goes out cold. Moving on, Battle of the Unks, Ricky Simone versus Hani Barcelos. Battle of the Unks. I'm going to go with Hani Barcelos to get this one done. I feel like I feel like Hani Barcelos is more of a... I feel like Hani Barcelos can take this guy 3 rounds. You know what I'm saying? And I don't see Ricky Simone hitting that knockout on him that he hits Basharat with. So I picked Ricky Simone to beat both Basharat and Smotherman. I'm going to pick Hani Barcelos to get this one done. And if Hani Barcelos gets this one done, he's on a 4-fight win streak inside 2025. Insane. So yeah, I'm going to pick Hani Barcelos. I'm going to pick a very crafty Unk performance. 29-28 decision for Hani Barcelos, where both of these Unks go back and forth. Someone's probably going to pull a guillotine. Probably Ricky Simone, I think, is more likely to pull a guillotine out of the two of them. Yeah, so have that on your bingo cards for this fight. Moving on. Chris Patella versus Ismael Bonfirm. Ismael Bonfirm got hit with a beautiful head kick in his last fight. He was fighting against Salikhov. Hit him with a switch kick to the head. It was a question mark kick, not a switch kick, just for reference. Which dropped Bonfirm, but also meant he couldn't see. So he lost via TKO doctor stoppage. Chris Patella is on a 3-fight win streak against genuinely good wins. Submitted James Lontop inside round number 1. People forget, man, Huffy took Longtop 3 hard rounds. Rongju, decision, and a doctor stoppage against Rongju, that's pretty good as well. Jai Herbert split decision, that's pretty good as well. I'm pretty sure, yeah, I did have him win that. I thought Jai Herbert did alright until the fight, but I thought Chris Patella did enough to get that one done. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to take Chris Patella. I'm going to take Chris Patella to get this one done. I was initially going to pick Ismael Bonfirm. But no, I'm going to pick Chris Patella to get this one done. And I think he submits him. I think he submits him from back position. I think he gets the rear naked choke. And I think he submits Ismael Bonfirm. Bonfirm's been submitted like that by Benoit Saint Denis before. Yeah, I feel like Chris Patella submits Ismael Bonfirm. Is he only 5'8"? That kind of sucks, man, because I think his brother's like 6 foot. So, you know, we all know we got the short end of the stick here, unfortunately, for Ismael Bonfirm. But I think Chris Patella beats him. Moving on. Oh, this one's another fun one. Okay, Muslim Salikhov versus Uros Medic. Uros Medic has won 5 fights in the UFC, all of them being via knockout. Muslim Salikhov is coming off a upset win over Khalil Liao via knockout, and a spinning wheel kick KO. So, this is a fun fight. I think Uros Medic might get it though. I'm thinking on my feet here a little bit, because I might change my pick. Initially, I was going to pick Muslim Salikhov. You know what? I'm going to pick Muslim Salikhov. I think he gets another upset win at the age of 41 years of age via a flatline KO. I think he gets it. Yeah, King of Kung Fu. Moving on. Matt Schnell versus Josef Morales. Boys, this is the people's main event. Matt Schnell versus Josef Morales. Now, Josef Morales, he's on his comeback arc. He's got weirdly long arms. He's on his comeback arc. Back in the UFC. I think he beats Matt Schnell. I'm going to pick him to get it done via knockout. Matt Schnell is the chinniest fighter in the UFC. I'm going to pick Morales via knockout. I think he's got that momentum behind him. Now he's back in the UFC. Yeah. Moving on to the main event. Gabriel Bonfirm versus Randy Brown. Bonfirm's 6'1". Wow, Ismael really did get the short end of the stick, didn't he? Anyway, Bonfirm versus Randy Brown. I'm going to pick Randy Brown to get this one done. I watched that Bonfirm versus Wonderboy fight. I can't see how Bonfirm won that. I thought Wonderboy won that fight, and I feel like if you put Randy Brown up against Wonderboy, Randy Brown probably knocks him out against that version of Wonderboy. And on top of that, I don't think Randy Brown's going to let himself get held up against the cage again, similar to what he did against Brian Battle. And I watched Bonfirm struggle to take a 42-year-old Wonderboy down. Struggle to take Stephen Wonderboy Thompson down at 42 years of age. I picked Wonderboy to win that fight as like a plus 400 underdog, and I thought he did win that fight. It was a robbery. We all know it's a robbery. We all wanted Wonderboy to win that fight. They done robbed him. But I think Randy Brown's going to get it done for the people back in Jamaica. I'm going to be honest. Bonfirm has lost to Nicholas Dalby. Randy Brown flatline KO'd Nicholas Dalby. MMA math. It makes sense. It works every single time. I'm going to pick Randy Brown to get this one done. I'm going to pick it to get it done by round 2 TKO. And yeah, there we go. This was probably the worst Apex event I've ever seen in my entire life. Only possibly could be topped by the one we had last week. So, yeah. But I'll see you in the next video, which will probably be a recap. Maybe a fucking UFC 322 predictions. I don't know. But I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.